Welcome everyone. This is part 2 of the Word project for Module 1, and this is a totally separate file that we're working on. So I have it open here. It's the ILWD1-1, and of course it's going to have your name on it. So this is step number 17 that I'm working on, and then I have that opened up over here. So it tells you to click on the File tab and Save As. A shortcut is F12, or you can click on File, Save As. So I'm going to hit F12. And what it wants you to save it as is tip sheet. Now remember, it's very important that you save it and keep your name here as well. So what you need to do is replace this one over here, this 1-1, and then you're going to type in underscore tip sheet and the underscore, and then you'll have your last name. So when you go to try to submit it, if it's not named properly, it'll let you know and tell you what to actually save it as. So I've already done this, so I'm going to get a message that says it's already there. So let me click on Save. Yes, it's there. I'm going to replace it so it can start from scratch. And so that is number 2. And then it's asking you to do the vertical scroll bar so that to go down to the bottom of the document. So I'm going to go up top to the document and show you an easier way to do it. So if I hit Control and then Home, it takes me to the top. I'm already at the top. But I'm going to hit Control and N, and that takes me down to the very bottom of the document. So that makes it very easy. So if you have a document that's 70 or 80 pages, hitting Control Home is a lot easier than just scrolling all the way down. So that is number 3. And then it just wants you to play with the zoom slider. Here's the zoom slider, so you can make it bigger, smaller. You could also go to View and play with the zoom here. This sets it as 100%. This lets you zoom it to a position, percentage of what you want. This is whole page. I like page width. That's what I prefer to work in. What you work in, of course, is your personal preference in there. So then it tells us in the first sentence of the last paragraph, replace your name, obviously, with your name. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to type in my name. Then it tells you to go to the top of the document by hitting Control Home. So notice that it goes right to the top when I do this. And I'm working off 2 screens, so let me go back to the other screen in here. So then it says go to the View tab and click the page width, which is right here. This is what I like to work on. You know, again, these are things that you can use to work according to your own personal preferences. This will make it smaller. This will make it bigger. So I'm not going to do that. I like it the way it is. It wants you to go to do it to its 120%. So you can see that. So now we want to go to the File tab and Document Properties. So we're clicking on File. And if Properties is not shown, just click on Info. And here's our properties. It tells us to add a title in here. So we're just going to click on Add a Title, and we're going to type in Tips. And I'm going to click outside the box over here, and you can see what this looks like. Let me bring this over here. You can see this is what we just did. Here we added the title properties. So let me move that away. And then it talks about the different views. To get back to the document, just click this arrow up top here. So that takes care of this one. We are now doing 1/8 cut and paste. Again, you're going to be cutting and pasting a very lot, so make sure that you feel comfortable doing it in many different ways to cut and paste, and you just use the one that you feel the most comfortable with. One of them is drag and drop. I'm not a big fan of drag and drop, but I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't already know how to do it. So when you cut something, it actually takes it out of the document, so you cannot see it, but it doesn't delete it. It puts it over here in what's called the clipboard. in here. So if you click this arrow down here, you'll see anything that has been put in the clipboard. So let me close that, and I'm going to cut something just so you see what's there. And here is cut, or I can hit Control X. So now I go into the clipboard, notice that it's there, and then I can just paste this back if I want from here, or I can. So it's important that when you do cut something, that you realize that it's just stored somewhere else. If you copy something, notice I have the clipboard open, and I click on copy, it does the same thing. It puts it on top of the clipboard in here, but it does not take it away from your document. Now remember that when you delete something that is totally different than cutting it, deleting it totally takes it out of the document, and you'd either have to do undo or you would have to just retype it. So that explains the different things in here. So it goes in the Home tab. We're going to close this over here. It wants you to make sure that the show formatting is there. So I'm going to unclick it. Notice the backwards P. Notice all these little spaces over here. And I'm going to hit the tab key a couple times. Those little arrows there are tabs. As soon as I uncheck that, then they're not there anymore. So they do not print, but it's always great to have these on so you can see when something's not lining up why. So we want to select tips for job seekers, including the paragraph after it. The easiest way to do it is have your mouse go into the what's called the selection bar. Notice that it's an arrow pointing up, and click one time. That selects everything for the actual, that line over there. So you're good in here. So we're going to take care of that, and we're going to click on cut. Or I could have picked Control X, and that's the same thing as cut in here. It says place the insertion point immediately before RU heading in here. So here is RU. I'm clicking the insertion point right over there. And then it says press enter to create a new paragraph. So it's none, notice it's under JCL. And let's see what else it says. Place the insertion point in there. Then click the paste button. So you can either click on paste. You can go into the clipboard and click on paste here. Or you can hit Control V. So let me see where it wants the thing. Place insertion point in the new blank paragraph under JCL Talent. So we're doing it here, and we're going to click on Control V. Notice that it added another paragraph because we had cut and included the paragraph mark in here. So that is number 3. And then it shows you what it should look like right here, which hopefully this is what I have. And it looks good. Notice the 2 blank paragraphs. If I had this turned off, I would just see space over here. Now I know I have 2 blank paragraphs. Alright, so at the insertion point in a blank paragraph, are you emotionally intelligent? Press delete in here. So are you emotionally? So it's the insertion point in a blank paragraph below. So I'm going to click here, and I'm just going to press the delete key. So that gets rid of that blank paragraph. All right, then it says select the body text, beware of your own emotions. So as soon as I find that, I will, right here. So I'm going to click on here, and that selects it here. And notice it tells you, let's see, in the entire text is selected, including paragraph. Word considers any string of text that ends with a paragraph mark as the paragraph. So bear that in mind. If you didn't want the paragraph mark selected, just hold the shift key down and use your arrow key. And use your left arrow key. And make sure that you hold your shift key down. So now I'm holding my shift key and I'm moving my arrow key on the right arrow key. So now it says press and hold the mouse button over the selected text and drag it the vertical line to beginning of control how you express. So here's control how you express. This is called drag and drop. So I'm clicking and I'm moving it right over here. And once I release the mouse button, it'll move it. This is exactly the same as cutting it and then pasting it. So it's called dragging and dropping. Then it goes into an explanation about undo, redo, and repeat. So this is undo, which will undo the very last thing that you did. This is to repeat the very last thing that you do. Now it does tell you that you can't repeat because we really haven't done anything. We haven't cut anything. Rather, we haven't undone anything. So let's undo this. And now this is redo. And then if you want to repeat the very last move, there is different ways to do it. I just prefer to use the F4 key. So it explains that in here. Then it tells you how to highlight text in a document. This is the highlighter. Do not confuse selecting with highlighting. This is highlighting here. Notice that it highlighted it because I had it selected. So if I wanted to highlight this, I can click over here. I can click whatever color I want. And I can just drag over. And boom. So that took care of that. And when you're done, then you can just press this and that will get rid of the highlight. So I'm going to undo this because I don't want it highlighted. You know, again, don't confuse highlighting with selecting. Think of it if you're reading a book or magazine and you have a yellow highlighter and you're just highlighting things in here. So that takes care of that. Okay, so now we're going to copy and paste, which is fairly easy. So we're going to scroll to the bottom of the document. So I'm going to hit Control End. And it says select more detailed in the heading. So here is more detailed. And an easy way to select text without dragging is click where you want to start and shift click where you want to end. So that actually selects more detailed. And then we're going to click on copy. I'm going to hit Control C. And so we're going to, this is a clipboard. It tells you to click copy here. Place the insertion point before information in the first sentence of the final paragraph. So let me see. Let me read this again. Before information. So here's before information. So then it wants us to paste it in here. So let's click on paste. And notice that it is bold in there. So you have options of getting rid of the format. So notice as soon as I paste it, I have paste options. So what I'm going to do is click over here. And here's your paste options. It says keep source formatting, merge formatting, picture, and that. So what it wants us to do is use, let me read this real quick. Over here, mouse pointer to screen tip. So we want to keep text only. So here's keep text only. So that takes care of that. And I'm working off two screens. So I'm looking at one and going back and forth in here. So splitting the document in a window is an easy way to do it. So I'm not going to go into it. You can look at that at your leisure. So now we're on 110 working with fonts. So we're talking about this is the actual font. This is the font size. And this is the font color in here. Why they didn't put this up over here next to font, I don't know, but then again, it's right here. Just remember it. So the size, so it tells us to hit Control Home to go to the very top. And it talks about themes, fonts, colors, and stuff over here. So it wants us to select tips for job seekers. So I'm just going to select it that way. And then click the font arrow in the font group. And it wants us to go to Berlin Sans. Now, if you can't find it, then what you want to do is just, now I happen to have it here, but if you can't find a font, you can just type in the letters in here and it will find it for you. So that takes care of that. And you'll notice that it's now here because it says recently used. So then the font size, we want to do 18. Now I'm going to click on 18 right now. And because it's selected, it's going to do that. But however, if I clicked on this 18, Now, depending, sorry about that. I have a Cheerio stuck in my throat. Depending upon what version you have, whether you're on a Mac or a Windows or a Chromebook, or you're online, it may make you select it first. So just bear that in mind. If what you're trying to do doesn't work, feel free to just select it in here. So the rule of thumb really is when in doubt, select. So if I click over here, notice that it changes to the font and then the size to 18. So we're going to do the subject, are you emotionally intelligent? So we're going to do that again as well. And we're going to do the same font. Notice that it is there, so we don't have to search for it. And we're going to do size 22. If a font size is not here, say I wanted to do 21, I could just type in 21. And actually I wanted 22. That's number 5. And the font arrow group gives you a bunch of colors. So it wants us to do, let me find the colors in here. So we're going to go down, this doesn't want to change. We're going to go to the importance of emotional intelligence. It's right here. We're going to select that. And we're going to notice that the mini toolbars opened up over here. This is really a version of this up top here. If you can't find it, again, so let's say I click outside over here, it's gone. Just right click, and it's right over here. It also adds this as well. But here's our mini toolbar. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the font arrow, and we're going to do Berlin again. And then it wants us to change it to 14. And it wants us to click and deselect the text. So let's see what color it wants. I'm just going to change it to blue accent 1. So let's go here. Here's our color. And this should be blue accent 1. So now that becomes the active color. So we now have this over here. And it wants us to copy this to do the other ones as well. So I'm going to show you an easy way to copy from this one to how to build in here as far as colors in here. So I may have missed a step. So give me 1 second to take a quick look at it. Okay, I did miss number 9, which tells you to repeat the steps on how to build emotional intelligent and more detailed intelligent. However, I don't want to do all of that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on what's called a format painter, which is up top, and I'm going to double click on it. If I single click, it only lets me do it once. But if I do double click, and what it'll do, it'll copy the format of this to whatever I type. Notice that it's changed to a little paintbrush. And then we're going to do the same thing for more detailed information. Okay, now I'm done. So I'm going to uncheck it by just clicking on the format painter. What's good about that is if I have all kinds of crazy formats, a color, a size, bold, italic, underline, that's 5 different things that I have to do. I can just click on copy the format and it will copy all of those things. If I hit F4, the only thing that it will do is do the very last thing that I did. So if I made something bold and I hit F4 somewhere else, that will make it bold as well. So let's see, then they're showing shadows and text effects in here so that you can look at that. Here's text effects here. So you can see all kinds of different things that you can do with it. So I'm going to click on F4 here. So that looks kind of neat, only that's not what they want us to do, so I'm going to undo it. So you can play around with that at your leisure. Now we have margins. So we're going to click on the Layout tab. And here's margins. If I click the drop-down arrow, it gives me some preset margins, but it also lets me to do custom margins. So I'm going to click the drop-down arrow here. And I'm going to click on custom margins. Then it brings up the screen so I can do top, bottom, left, and right. And we want to do 0.6 on the top, 0.6 on the bottom, and all of them need to be. So I'm just going to type in 0.6. I could use these arrows in here, but this is a lot easier. I'm going to hit the tab key and just do it one at a time very easily. And when I'm done, I'm just going to click on OK. So that changes the margins from 1 inch or whatever it was before. Usually it's 1 inch top and bottom, 1 1/4 inch on the sides. However, it all depends what the document that you're working on has as a default, so that's no big deal. So now we're going to place the insertion point in a blank paragraph under tooltips, tips for job seekers. So let me find that. So it wants us in here automatically. Place the blank paragraph in here and delete it. So let me show you this right here by unchecking the, I need to be in the home tab. Here's the backwards P. So notice that you don't have any idea why there's so much space in here. Of course, if we click on here, we know that we have a blank paragraph in here. But it wants us to delete it. And then what it wants us to do is go into layout, and we're going to change the spacing before and after. So we go to layout. This is character spacing. So this means how many points to do before the actual paragraph and how many after. So it wants us to do 6 points before. Of course, you could type it in. And it wants us to do 30 after. So I'm going the wrong way. So now notice that you have all this space over here. But by having this paragraph mark showing and you see nothing in here, then you know that you either have spacing after this paragraph or spacing before this paragraph, the one below it that begins with emotional intelligence. So this is what it should look like. And obviously I have a wrong color in here that I missed. And that's why you definitely want to keep looking at the sheet to see if you missed a step. I normally miss steps when I'm recording and talking at the same time and doing it because I'm going back and forth as opposed to just going one at a time. So that takes care of figure 121. Changing orientation and paper size is very easy. So it talks about that below. If you go to layout, here's the orientation. So this is portrait. Portrait is holding it up and down. Or landscape is when you have it sideways. So if I go into print preview, which I believe is this on my, notice that it is sideways. So if I change the orientation back to portrait and go back into print preview, notice that it's up and down. So, anything that you do that's wide, I don't normally use landscape in Word, but I do use it a lot in Excel. And then the paper size, here's your paper sizes right here. So you can choose that, or you can do a custom paper size if you want. But normally you're just going to do legal or letter. So you don't really need to mess too much with that. Alright, so that takes care of this one. We are now in 112. I believe there's 14 of them. So adding bullets and numbering is really very easy to do. So we says under emotional intelligence in the workplace, select a 3-line list. So that's this over here. So now I did it this way, but I could have easily clicked here and clicked at the end by holding the shift key down and then clicking. Make sure that you don't click first before you hold the shift key down. And then it wants us to click on the bullets up top here. So we need to be in the home. And here are bullets. Notice that it indented everything and put a little black bullet in here, a little round, I believe they call that a disc in here. You can change the color of the bullets. You can change the type of the bullets as well. So we're going to click the bullet arrow and we're going to use a check mark. So notice that they're all selected. So now we're going to drop down over here, and here's our check mark. So now it can in here if you wanted to do something different. You have like a little circle, you have a box, you have a little symbol. This is called a star. Not really sure why it's called a star, but it is. And so there's all different kinds of things that you can use. So we'll leave and go back to the check mark. So that takes care of number 4. And let's see, it does say the forehead to begin with become aware. So I must be missing something in here. So, all right. So now we'll go down to how to build emotional intelligence. So we want to do these 4 paragraphs here. And we're going to do numbering. So here is the numbering. So again, I have to remind you, I'm working off 2 screens, and I'm talking and looking at one and really trying not to read as much as I need to make the video a little bit shorter. So we have numbering arrow in here, so we took care of that. And you can change the numbering formats as well over here. So you can see if you wanted to do letters, you can do letters. If you wanted to do an outline, there's all different kinds of things that you can do in here. So we'll get into that a little bit more later on. Place the insertion point before times in the first sentence of the first numbered paragraph. So here's times. And then it wants us to hit the enter key. So what's going to happen when you hit the enter key, it's going to create a new bullet, and that'll be number 2. Then it's going to make this 3, this 4, and that's 5. So let's see. Place the insertion point, just reading to make sure I get this right. Before times in the first sentence number, and type peak. So let's put in peak first. Glad I went back and read it because I'm trying to do this by memory. And then I believe it wants us to put it before think, which makes more sense. And hit the enter key. So this will become 2 and everything else will be 3, 4, and 5. And you can see that it did. So that works over here. So now we want to click 1 in the list. So this is a way that you can change the numbering or the bullets. So I can change the color. I can change the size. So in this particular case, it wants to make it B, bold. So notice that it now becomes bold and tells us to save it. If I wanted to make it a different color, let's just stick with the default. Notice that it all becomes that. So let's undo that so we don't have blue. Okay, now we're going to insert a graphic. So I'm going to press Control Home to get to the very top. And then it wants us to insert the file support blah 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 JPG. So I'm in the very top. So I'm going to hit Insert. Then I'm going to hit Picture. And a picture from this device. Then I happen to have the correct module open here. Otherwise you'd have to browse, and I'll click Support. And click Insert. Now notice it becomes giant in here. So don't worry about that. We're going to fix this. So here are sizing handles, which I rarely use. I try to use this size over here. This is rotate if you wanted to rotate it. Notice there. I don't want to do that, but if you wanted to, you could. So it tells us to type 2.5 in the shape height box. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to make sure that whatever I do to the height, I'm going to do to the width. So I'm going to make sure that lock aspect ratio is there. Without it, then it'll just change whatever I'm changing here. So let me put in 2.5. And I'm going to hit the tab key. Notice that it changed here. The size did not change because I did not hit the enter key or the OK. So notice that it is now changed in here. So that still doesn't look good. And you can see that we have it kind of not really making any kind of sense logically of what it is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use the position. Now don't choose the position or confuse a position with this position. Okay, that's not the actual position. So if you go in here, you can see a position. And it has the different options over here. So what I'm going to do here now is it wants us to position top right with square wrapping. So this is top right with square wrapping, middle, and bottom. So this makes a little bit of sense now. Then we're going to do the picture effects in here. So make sure you're on picture format, select a picture in picture format, and here are picture effects. So what it wants us to do is shadow and offset right. So we're going to pick on picture effects and shadow, and we need to find offset right, which I think is the very first one. So that takes care of that, and that looks kind of nice. I like that in here. Then we're going to go floating graphic with no shadow effect in here, or with shadow effect. It gives you a little preview of that. Select tips for job seekers. And then we want to do the font arrow and change it to green accent 6. Now notice if I just click here, this is the very last one we use. So we need to click the arrow, and this should be green accent 6. And just to show you what I'm talking about with F4, if I hit the F4 key, that changed that. It only did the very last thing that I did. So click the deselect attack. We're going to go to view and one page. So that shows you the whole page and what it would look like. And then it gives you a little bit of an explanation of enhancing pictures with style and effects. And I encourage you to play with this. So now we're going to apply a theme, and I believe this is the very last one to do. We're going to put in page borders. So I like to work on page width. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little page border around it. So you can see what that looks like in figure 127. So the easiest way to go into page borders is design and page borders. You can also do shading and paragraph borders as well. So the very first thing that it tells us to do is click box. So here's box. And let's see what else. In the themes design, move the pointer over to each theme in here and do that. So we need to click OK. So all we're going to do is put this solid line. The color is going to be automatic. If we wanted to change the color, we could. The width is going to be half point. If we wanted to change the width of that, we could. And this is what it's going to look like in a preview. So we click on OK, and we're good to go. So you can see that it did put a little page border on here. So now we're going to click the themes, move the pointer over, and point to origami. Now these are not the themes. These are the themes here. So here is, let's see, what does it want? Organic is right here. So you can see it kind of changed the colors a little. It just tells you to point to it. So you can see every one that you point will give you a little preview. And I believe it wants us to do vapor trail, which I believe is down here, vapor trail. So now we have vapor trail. Click the colors button in the document, and we want to preview that. And let's see if it tells us to change it to green. So colors button in here. So it's not telling us to change anything, but if I wanted to change the colors, you can change them as well. So it's not telling us to change anything, so we're good over here. Move the pointer at each set of it. We point to each set of it. Oh, actually it does say click blue. I thought it did. So now we're back to blue. And this is what our final document should look like right here, which is very similar to what I have. So now, when you're done, I'm going to save this here. Make sure you save it. So when you're done, you click on continue. This is the very beginning. And these are the files that you need to upload. So all you have to do is drag them here to the files from wherever you have them saved. If you have something named wrong, it will tell you it's expecting this. So then you can just rename them. And then if you get it wrong, it will tell you all the things that you did wrong, and then you can redo it. So I've given you 3 attempts to make it right. So when you get it, you get a complete report. So you go in there and fix whatever it is. It tells you exactly what it is. So just go into the file and make the changes that you need to. They're really very good at explaining what you did wrong. Then you can go and change it, resubmit it again, and you're good to go. So that's it for this video. Hopefully it was helpful, and look forward to seeing you.